I just want to thank you, the witnesses this morning, and I don't know if my questions have been asked, so if they have, I apologise. The MHC writes inspection reports on individual cases. When these cases do not meet the correct standard, what is the MHC's role in providing a service plan for residents of that case, and how is the will and preference of residents incorporated into this plan? My second question is in relation to the MHC again, individual reports on cases. How does the consultation process work for residents and their family, and particularly their advocates as well? And could the representatives discuss further the lack of community supports for people with mental health issues living independently or semi-independently in the community? That one is a huge issue for me now, because I just feel that we need to do a lot more there. I think that there isn't enough services within the community, and I just think that really needs to be addressed. And currently, out of all the community mental health services, only the 24-hour residents are inspected by the Mental Health Commission on a 3-year rolling cycle. Is there a plan for the MHC to inspect other community mental health services? That was an issue that came to me recently.
So I'll come to the last one first. We don't have the powers to regulate any of those services.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
We kind of use our own resources to go out and do that, which is Susan. So in law, we're not required to. That was a strategy we put in to get out and gain information. What we want in the new Act is the powers to regulate.
Yeah.
Now, it won't solve anything, but at least it will create the transparency that people will begin to see, how things are. Susan, did you want to?
Yeah, no, I mean, we're very hampered by the fact that we don't have regulatory powers for community, and we're really looking forward to that being in the new Act, and that will change, I think, the community services, once they're regulated and that they have to perform to regulations and that they're assessed and so on. And we think that would be a huge breakthrough in mental health services in the community. So as I said, we're looking forward to that. You talked about the lack of community services for people who are independently living or semi-independently living. I have covered that before from another question, but I'm very happy to do that again. I suppose the history really of it is that when the institutions closed, whole wards were moved out into the community. So what you had is these very large, sometimes up to 20, 30 people in them, in the community, but not of the community, if you get my drift. So what happened over time is that while they have been building and they have been using smaller units around the country, the people in those units are stuck. Because the two main reasons. One of them is that there is very little rehabilitation services. As I said to the other deputy, there's only 48% of what should be in teams, and there's only 35% of staffing that should be there. So it's very difficult to move people on from those congregated settings into medium or low secure. So when you do get people that have managed to move on into independent or semi-independent, they still may need some support. They may need rehabilitation services. And they are part, where there is a rehabilitation team, they would be part of that. They would be covered by that team. But as I said, when you've only got 50% of what you should have in teams, I no doubt know that there are people who aren't supported in their independent or semi-independent.
And can I just ask, like when we, promote, people maybe living independently, how do you find the services work? Because you have to go to your local authority, so you have to have all the different agencies working together. Now, I think that's another issue. I'm just wondering, while we don't have enough housing at the moment, there's other issues within the sector. So I'm just saying, how do you see that progressing going forward? Because it is important that, anyone that wants to live independently should be able to, and that's something everyone's encouraging. But I just feel within the system now, because I know in my own area of Carlow, I just know we need more houses, but we just don't have the supply there. So how do you see that, incorporated incorporating into this then as well?
Yes, when you look at rehabilitation and recovery, it
Yeah.
isn't just medication.
No, it's not, yeah.
And it's not just therapies.
No.
You have to take into account things like education,
Yeah.
jobs,
Yeah, housing, yeah.
all those, and socialisation
Yeah.
into the community. And looking at the rehabilitation teams that are now in place, they are beginning to do that. There are housing specialists, if you like, I forget what they're called,
Placements, yeah, they are, yeah.
Who have good connections with the rehabilitation team, and there also they have peer support workers who help with the socialisation and help that. So it's absolutely vital to get those rehabilitation teams up and running and where they should be, because otherwise people that you're talking about tend to get lost.
Yeah, they do get lost.
And then you get back into the cycle of being admitted into an acute unit, and it all, so I really can't emphasise it more that there should be proper rehabilitation services in Ireland.
You mentioned service plan, but I think you mean care plans, individualised care plans.
Yeah.
And Gary, do you want to, because that is an issue in Ireland, that individualised patient or resident care has been in, like I trained in England 30 years ago, and that's the first thing you're trained in. In Ireland, we're still stuck in everyone as a group type of thing. We kind of haven't resourced yet around the individual. Do you have the stats on the care planning? Like every year
the compliance with the care planning is quite low, and it's something that is brought up in the inspector's reports repeatedly, and it does require that residents are consulted about the contents of that care plan, and they're part of the process, and they inform how it's developed and what the outcomes are in that. So we have, again, this is an area that needs to be addressed through better regulation and more specific regulations in relation to how it's done, how frequently it's done, who's responsible for carrying it out, and what appropriate care planning looks like in mental health services.
Okay, thank you.